Hello and welcome, this is Darker Zero as you know me, and I'm here yet again with another one of my Gw2 tutorials or guide for new players. Today I want to hint or touch a little bit on the introduction of water and underwater combat. So in the game of Gw2 you're now allowed to swim and explore different areas that are more submerged and whatnot. This is taking part in the Cauldron Forest over by Morgan Spiral. There's a nice pool of water filled with undead mobs and so on. Before we get to any of the combat, I want to touch on a few things that I found helpful when I first started encountering the underwater scenarios. First off, if you go to your options and then down to control options and under movement, there is a swim down by default. It's not bound to any keys on your keyboard because you got swim up on the spacebar. But I found by tagging swim down to a comfortable or easy to reach keybind is actually very, very useful for a few reasons. I'll explain those reasons here in a minute. The second thing I want to touch on is underwater. It works on the Z-axis, so you can go up and down and then side to side. Forwards and backwards, of course. Now in underwater you have your melee weapon, which is usually a spear. Will always be a spear. And then your ranged weapon is either, depending on your profession, a trident or a spear gun. Since I'm on my thief uses spear gun, which is the ranged combat weapon, and usually most of the ranged weapons house some form of movement impairing CC or some kind. And on this one it has escape, and the next one that I don't have unlocked, which is disable shot, cripples, and this one is a retreat type skill that poisons. Now, underwater functions just like land-based battles, except for that your weapons are changed to fit the environment. Because ArenaNet decided that, you know, swinging axes and great swords underwater just wasn't going to happen, or wasn't logical in the design of it. And also your underwater utilities are set separately from your on-land ones. So if you set all venoms in your utilities and then get out of the water, it will go back to your on-land set, which I have crop tops and squirtle powder. So you have two basic set utility bars, your on-land and then underwater. Now, kiting mobs underwater, whether it be ranged or melee, we really can't kite ranged underwater. But kiting melee underwater works very similar to on-land. Very similar to on land. You can move around in a semicircle around the mob, and that works for kiting off damage and so forth, especially if you're using a ranged weapon. But some other tactics you can use when you're fighting ranged mobs, especially if you're melee, is use the Z-axis to your advantage. So if you have the mob coming up on you like that, if you press your keybind to swim down, you're now on a different plane than the mob, and the mob has to come back down to you, and vice versa. So in underwater, there's different, what's the word I want to use? Kind of playing fields or whatnot, planes, if I may, or layers. So melee mobs have to be on the exact same face-to-face layer as you are. If I am, say, down here and I had melee and I swam like right under that guy right there and like press my button, I wouldn't normally be able to hit him. I only hit him because he came towards me. But yeah, semicircle kiting. When you're fighting more than, say, one mob underwater, the tactics work similar to on land in my previous videos. You know, make sure you take out the ranged mobs first because they're a little bit harder. But if they're multiple melee or close range mobs, you can use the plane to your advantage. You can swim above them and they have to swim to you while you're attacking one. Or you can swim below all of them and they have to swim down to you. This is also very nice to say if your heal is on cooldown and you're waiting for it to come back and you're not really high on HP.
This one.
It's a very nice approach to it. From my personal standpoint, for the few that really don't like underwater combat or are not really used to it, I would prescribe to start off with maybe your ranged weapon to get a little feel for it. Because it is something new. When I first started it, I really wasn't accustomed to the whole Z-axis idea, especially if you're fighting like Kraid, because they're just god-awful and whatnot. But as you get used to it, it gets a little better. And I remember reading or hearing in one of Renee's posts that about 50% of Tyria is probably like underwater. Maybe a little less, I'm not sure. But it's something I enjoy, the whole aspect of being able to swim and explore the submerged part of Tyria, because some of the lore and whatnot is underwater. Like if you go to Queensdale and go down to the one heart where you have to destroy the little dark portals or whatnot, if you swim underneath that particular body of water, you can see what's left of the Temple of Balthzar in the original Guild Wars. Because you'll have the Grim statue and the statue of I think there was another one there. Wasn't Mount Mandarin, but I know that the statue of Grint is under there. Let's see, any other things I could touch on for underwater? Oh, just some more side notes. The breathing apparatus is a completely different headset than the one you have on your land headset. So if you're using like a rune set that has 6 runes and you get 6 ability because you have all 6 on your land one, if you don't have the 6 rune attached to your aqua breather, then you'll lose out on that 6 benefit. That's just something else I want to tack on the side. Depending on your build, it might be frustrating or troubling and whatnot. But this is Dark, or Zero as you know me, and this is my chart Yoko Flash Fang, and this is my underwater guide and tutorial for Gw2. It's short and brief, but there's not a whole lot of difference between underwater combat and land combat besides the fact that you're using 2 brand new different weapons introduced to the game, and the Z axis, which you can use to your advantage for dealing with mobs, both ranged and melee. You can also kind of use it to dodge range attack. None of these mobs are ranged, or I would demonstrate that. But for the most part, if you're fighting, say, a melee mob like this guy here, if you swim above him, he can't hit you, and if you swim below him, he has to kind of like swim down and get you. So that's something you can kind of use to your advantage if you're low on health or your heals on cooldown, or if you get mobbed per se by more mobs than you can handle, you can kind of use the Z axis to your advantage to buy you some time to formulate a calculative counter strike. But yeah, this is Dark. I appreciate your time for watching my videos. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions you would like to give me, pitch me a message, like, subscribe if you like it. But for now, take care.